All right, here is the demonstration for multiplaning using Photoshop and After Effects. And I have Photoshop open here, and I've already built this file. I'm going to tear off the layers panel so we can look at it. This is a 3-layer file. I have the tree trunk and some leaves and some more leaves. Now the way I've organized this is the trunk is in the middle, so some of the leaves are behind it, and then other leaves are in the foreground. The critical factors here is that the layers are named and that they're transparent. So how did I make this? Let's make a new one. File, New. I'm choosing Film and Video HD TV 1080, so it's 1920 by 1080 for that. That's 72 DPI and it's 8-bit. Now it comes up automatically with a background of white. I'm going to call this Palm. It's the name of the file, and there we are. So first off, I'm going to create a new layer, and this is going to be trunk. And I'm just going to simply delete the background because I don't need that solid layer. So the trunk, let's see, I'm going to make it kind of a purple color. And you don't want anything to go outside of the file because then it would have this chopped off look. So here's the trunk, and it's going to be, even though I don't want to see the bottom of it in the finished animation, I make sure that I'm contained within the file. Okay, let's do another new layer, and this will be Palm 1, or Frond, sorry, Frond 1. Those will be my foreground fronds, and I'm going to change the color a little bit. So in the ultimate file, these are going to be in the super foreground. They will move more than the trunk will. Okay, so I'm going to turn those off, and now I'm going to make another new file, which is going to be another new layer, I'm sorry, Frond 2. They're going to have a slightly different color, you know, so that they stand out. And I've got Frond 1 up here, but I have it turned off. Frond 2 is going to be underneath Frond 1. And so I'm just making these. Now I'll turn them all on and we'll take a look. All right, so all of these pieces can be animated separately. Now Frond 2, actually, I want to put some stuff that'll be a little more visible there. There we go. And let's save it. File, Save As, make sure it's a Photoshop file, and it's called Palm PSD, and it's going into the folder that I've created. All right, so let's minimize that and let's open up After Effects. Here's After Effects. It comes up as a blank. I'm going to go to Composition. This is creating the template. Again, the 1920 by 1080. I'm going to call it Forest. And when you name a composition, up comes the composition window. Now I have 2 of them, but we can go down here at the bottom where it says 2 views, go to 1 view. You probably have 1 view when you open it up. So the workspace up here is standard. I don't want any of the other ones unless you've created your own. Now I need to go get the files I'm going to use. So here's the composition in the project folder called Forest. File, Import, File. And I'm going to go out and find this guy. So what I want is Tree Hero. That's one I made previously. Open. And up comes a lot of options to how to import it. Well, I want composition retain layer sizes and merge layer styles. When they're talking about merge the styles, they're just talking about if you've done things like drop shadows. Okay, so here's Tree Hero, and I drag it down and I put it inside the composition timeline for Forest. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I hit my render queue by accident. Close the render queue. So if I double click on the file, it opens up and shows me the 3 layers. And so now all of these layers are animatable on their own. I'm going to add one more. I want a background layer. File, Import File. So I'm going to find Dina's file, Dina Tree, and open it. And here's the tree that Dina made. This is actually all in 1 layer. Oh, it has no background on it. So you know what? I'm going to get a new layer. I'm going to make one inside After Effects. It's going to be the sky, and I'm going to name it Sky. And that I'm going to drag to the bottom, because just like Photoshop, the layers read front to back. So comma zooms out, period zooms in. I'm going to turn off these guides that are in my way, and we'll talk about what we're looking at here. So the important thing when you're multiplaning in After Effects is to have the 3 dimensions. I'm going to go back to 2 views so we can see those. On the right, I have the regular file. On the left, it shows the same thing because we're still in 2 dimensions, the flat stuff. So here in my timeline at the bottom is this toggle that goes between the pages that I can use to modify my layers. And I want this page that has a little cube, and I'm going to click that cube on in every layer that I have, except for sky. I'm going to leave sky alone. And here's what I get. I'm now looking at the top view. Again, I'm going to turn off these guides that are a nuisance. And you can see all these files are stacked together. This is on the top looking down on it. The front of the file is here and the back is there in Z space. So now I'm going to give some separation. I'm going to take the Dina tree file, which is this background we see here. I'm going to twirl it open with a little triangle and go to the transform. And in position, you've got X, Y, and Z. I'm going to drag Z back. And you can see in this area here that this is the file going back, and it'll get smaller in this picture. It's going back. You see it gets smaller. Well, the offset is what I'm after. I don't care about the scale, so I'm going to size it up using scale. So it'll look bigger. It'll look bigger. It can even look exactly the same, but it's still back there. So now I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm going to get a camera, which is another layer. Camera. I like this guy. Okay. And here's my camera. So I'm going to zoom out on this file, and I click on camera, and you can see right here is where the tree is, and I'm going to go ahead and move the camera and position. I'm going to move them in Z. And you can see a little teeny bit. If you look in right here, you can see the perspective shift as the camera goes towards things. Well, more radical is if I go from side to side. So now watch what happens here when I move from side to side. There is our multiplaning magic. Okay? So now let's do more of that to the tree. Put the camera right in there. There we go. So we're going to go take these trees, and first I want the leaves to be attached to the trunk. Right now, if I twirl the trunk down and open it, what's going to happen is the trunk is not attached to the leaves. Take a look at this guy. Let's go back to one view just so that we can see it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so as I move the trunk, you can see it's not attached to the leaves. All right, I want to attach it, and so I'm going to do that by parenting. Here's the parent column. It says none. I want these leaves here to be attached to the trunk. So I twirl open none and choose trunk. These leaves here to be attached to the trunk. Twirl open none and use trunk. So now, when I open up the trunk and I move it, everything goes together. All right, so now let's take a look at the next thing we're going to do, which is to put the leaves into 2 planes. So here we are. This is both files of leaves and the trunk right here, and here's Dina's background. So let's change the leaves and bring them forward. I'm going to go to position. I'm going to take the third unit, X, Y, Z, and I'm going to scrub it to the left. And so now the leaves are towards us from the trunk, which is the way it would be. And I'm going to go down to the other leaves, and I'm going to make them go back from the trunk. So they're going to go to the right. There. And so now the tree is 3 elements. So let's take a quick look at what the camera does to that. Now we're getting into some real magic. So you see that not only does the background move in relationship, but the leaves themselves move in relationship to the tree trunk. You have all sorts of perspective shift. Let's change this guy, move him up and down. So you can get all sorts of interesting things with multiplaning. So that's the simplest way of looking at it. Okie doke.